Hi, and welcome to Bible History, Man. Last time, we talked about the end of Judas the Hammer Maccabeus as he sold his life dearly as his brothers escaped. Now, Jonathan has taken over the rule in the family. And what is a man to do now that most of his army has been defeated and he's turned his back before his foes? And Judas was the one who really knew about running this rebellion thing anyway. So what are we going to do? The bacon for this family is going to be saved by a guy named Alexander Bayless. Now, first of all, as you might have already guessed, they would never eat bacon. A matter of fact, they would probably fight you for even suggesting it. But either way, Alexander Bayless is claiming to be the son of Antiochus IV. And so he has shown up where he'd like to contest the throne with Demetrius. And in addition, he has an army paid for by Rome, and he's been awarded the crown of the Seleucid Empire by the Roman Senate. And so now he has every right to rule. I think you can see what the Romans are doing here. They're just buttering those Seleucid paws right and left so that they can never be strong enough to face them. And so Alexander Bayless is going to show up. And of course, Demetrius is not going to want to have any enemies at this time. So he's going to send word to Jonathan. He's going to say, Jonathan, let's let bygones be bygones. Let's let that water flow underneath the bridge. My suggestion to you is that you take over as high priest. You run your kingdom the way you like. And also, make an army and prepare yourself for self-defense because there are bad guys around. Some dude named Alexander. He's a horrible human being. And Alexander sends word. And Alexander says, well, first of all, his messenger gives him a gift. It's a royal robe and a crown. And he's like, here, I'm just acknowledging your right to rule. And obviously, we both know that your brother just died at the hands of Demetrius as general. And so, of course, you're going to back me. And then word comes from Demetrius again. First of all, I would like to commend you for not taking up with that stinker Alexander. What a horrible human being, and I know you've got better wisdom than that. Also, I wanted to let you know that I'd like to pay for all of the repairs in the temple. Also, I'd like to pay for the sacrifices as well. Can we be friends? I have money. Well, all of this is going to be settled because Jonathan is going to back Alexander Bayless against the guy that murdered his brother, and that's going to turn out pretty well for him because Alexander's going to win. And this victory is going to be fairly short-lived because, believe it or not, the Romans are going to replace Demetrius with yet another claimant. Demetrius II, if you can believe it, is going to overthrow Alexander Bayless after about 3 years. And then he's going to go on the warpath. One of his generals, Trypho, is going to capture Jonathan. And they're going to send word to the last of the brothers, a guy named Simon. And they're going to say, well, we certainly would hate to have to kill your brother and his entire family. I think you should just let us do whatever we want. And Simon, to his credit, did try to appease them and everything, but it didn't do any good because they murdered Jonathan anyway. And so Simon is going to become high priest. But Demetrius II and his buddy Trypho are not going to be able to overthrow Simon. You see, the Seleucids, they have a number of problems. They have constant squabbling between the two different lines. Each side is always trying to take over from the others. Also, Rome keeps on threatening them from the west. And from the east, the Parthians have risen up. And not only are they no longer paying tribute, now they are actively taking land. And so the Seleucids have a number of problems, and the Jews are just not high enough on the list for them to concentrate on them. And so Simon is going to have a relatively peaceful time of it. He's going to coin money, which means that he's going to be really starting to show that independence. He's also going to make a league with Rome. And Rome, after accepting official friendship with them, is also going to issue a declaration to 10 different kingdoms that they need to treat the Jews in their kingdom well. They need to treat them nicely. And that anybody that does not treat the Jews nicely is going to have the Romans to deal with. Now, here's what you need to know about Roman friendship. Roman friendship is an advantage for Rome. If you start beating up on the friends of Rome, and Rome doesn't want a war at that time, they're going to send you a strongly worded letter. However, it can be an excuse for them to come on over and conquer you. Rome has a temple, and its doors are only open when Rome is at war. But I have to tell you, those doors are never closed because Rome is constantly at war. They are a victim of their own success, and they are constantly keeping the peace, the Pax Romana, by going to war with people. Sadly, all good things come to an end. Simon will be at a feast, and he will be murdered by one of his sons-in-law, along with 2 of his 3 sons. His last son is going to be a guy named John Hyrcanus. And John Hyrcanus is going to be an extremely strong, if not an extremely respectable king for the kingdom of Judea. And after this point, the family of Simon are going to be known as the Hasmoneans. And they're going to be a dynasty of high priests. And John Hyrcanus is even going to be a king. Next time on Bible History Man. Well, that's another one of my episodes. Thank you so much for watching the whole way. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I love to answer questions. And if you're interested in it, I would love to talk about it. Also, if you have any other ideas about things that I could tell you about biblical history, I'm always open to suggestions, because it's what you want to hear that I would like to talk about. Now, if you like biblical history, like I like biblical history, or even a fraction as much as I like biblical history, I have a book out called A Helpful Handbook of Hebrew History. And it's available on WisePath Books or Amazon.com, and the links are in the comments below. Now, I would recommend that you would read a book instead of listening to videos all the time, because as an educator, I know it's much better for your brain, especially if you're not an adult yet. If you're still a youth, your brain is better if you read. So I would recommend that you read that book.